Hello, and this is Delia again, and I have another book. This one's called Curious George Goes Fishing. Scarlett, are you excited about another book? Scarlett is up in the morning and ready to go. She is ready for Mommy to read to her. We just got through reading Leah Goes to Potty, and now we're getting ready to read Curious George Goes Fishing. Oh my goodness, Scarlett, you like Curious George. This is George. He is a good little monkey and always very curious. One day George was playing with a string when he saw something funny. He saw a long string on a long stick being carried by a big man. What could the man be doing with a string on a stick? George was curious. Uh-oh. What do you think George is going to do? What do you think he's going to do? We'll see. The man was on his way to the lake, and soon George was on his way to the lake too. George watched the man put a hook on the end of the string and a piece of food on the hook. Then the man lowered the string into the water and waited. Look at George looking at him. Uh-oh, do you think he's going to be curious little monkey and find out what happens? When the man pulled the string out of the water, there was a big fish on the hook. What fun it must be to fish. George wanted a fish too. He had string. All he needed was a stick. And he knew just where to get one. George ran home as fast as he could go. Look, there he is with his string. Look, a mop would make a good stick. George tied his string to the mop. Now he was all set to fish. Or was he? Not yet. George had to have a hook. And on the hook something that fish liked to eat. Fish would like cake, and George knew where to find some. But where would he get a hook? Why, there was a hook on the wall. It would have to come out. Look at him. He thinks he's going to get the hook off of the wall, and it'll work for the cake. Look at him. He thinks he's going to fish with that. With the hook on the string and the string on the stick and the cake in a box in his hand, George went back to the lake. Look at George. He's silly. Look at him. You think he's going to find a fish? He put some cake on the hook and lowered the string into the water. Now he had to wait. Would he catch anything on the end of his string? George was curious. He might. The fish was curious too. All kinds of fish came to look at the string. Big fish and little fish, red fish, yellow fish, and blue fish. One of them was near the hook. The cake was just what he wanted. George waited. The string shook. Uh-oh, the string shook, look. But when George pulled the string up, there was no fish on the hook, and there was no cake on the hook either. The fish just took the cake and swam away. They took his cake and swam away with it. They did. Bad fish. Well, if George could not get the fish would not get the cake. George would eat it. The cake was just what he wanted too. He would find another way to fish. George looked into the water. A big red fish with a long tail was so near he could reach it. Could he catch a fish without a string? George got down as low as he could and put out his hand. Splash! Into the lake he went, and the water was cold and wet. George was cold and wet too. This was no fun at all. George was cold and wet too, and this was no fun at all. Look at poor George. He's done fell in the water. When George got out of the water, his friend Bill was there with his kite. "My, you are wet," Bill said. "I saw you fall in, so I came to help you get out. Too bad you did not catch a fish, but it is good too. The fish did not get you. Maybe now you can help me fly my kite." George was happy to help. Yay, he's going to help him fly the kite. It was a windy day, and soon George was dry and the kite was flying high. He watched it go up and up and up. What fun it was to fly a kite. It would have been fun to catch a fish on the end of a string, thought George, but flying a kite on the end of a string was even better. Yay! And that was called Curious George Goes Fishing, and he tried to catch a fish with a mop. But he didn't catch a fish, did he, Scarlett? He was so silly. And that was all done. I hope you enjoyed those cute little books, and there will be more coming soon. Have a wonderful day.